Hi there, this is an introduction to psychophysics. Psychophysics is the scientific study between the relationship of physical stimulation and perceptual experiences. Sensation, according to psychophysics, is the simple conscious experiences generated by stimulation of sense organs, and they are immediate and automatic. The physiological principles that apply to all senses and perceptions. These include the notion of transduction, which is the transfer of physical energy into electrical neural impulses by receptors. This is the first stage of all sensory processes. The impulses travel along axons of neurons to terminals which release neurotransmitters across synapses to be received by the other neurons. There's also the idea of hierarchical processing, in which neural impulses travel up the system to the cortex. Most things in a perception are explained via bottom-up processing. The thalamus serves as a relay station, except for olfaction, which bypasses the thalamus. Higher cortical areas also involve lateral and feedback connections. There can also be a top-down approach by higher cortical areas influencing the sense organs. The idea of a bottom-up approach or process, in which flow of information from sensory receptors travel towards higher cortical areas with increasing levels of complexity. Top-down approach is the idea in which prior knowledge influences what is perceived, including beliefs, attention, attitudes, expectations, biases, etc. These are not a dichotomy, but both do exist. There are many different pathways, forward, lateral, backwards, and they can change depending on situation. For example, patients in a coma show substantial activation through visual pathways. There's also selectivity. Within each sense, stimuli vary along various ways. For example, dimensions such as lines vary in location, angle, length, orientation, etc. And cells are selective for those certain different dimensions, such as, let's say, a vertical line over a line that is on a 45-degree angle. Responses will be smaller the more the stimulus differs from preferred stimulus. This is because the cell is tuned or selective for certain preferred dimensions. For an example, there is a place in your brain called the fusiform area, which is tuned to look at faces. That's just an example. Organization. There's an orderly progression of stimulus preferences, which you can find in cells along neural pathways, being selective to different or other dimensions. As an example of organization is cortical magnification, in which we have more neurons, larger, ranging in dealing with certain senses, such as, for example, somatosensory system has more receptive fields for fingertips as opposed to the back. Specific nerve energies. Proposed by Müller in 1838, he stated that the nature of a sensation depends on which sensory fibers are stimulated, not on how fibers are stimulated. This means that each sense projects to a different cortical area. Plasticity is when neural mechanisms are modified and are developable, and one can recover from brain injury as a result of that. Noise. Noise is just spontaneous activity in which cells fire little with no stimulation at all. They just fire on their own for no reason. Thanks for watching.